Bet. Okay, cool. There we go with that. What's going on, everybody? What's happening, man? This is Stephen Qualls II, aka Mr. Qualified. It's your boy. You feel me? And we're back with another Qualified TV interview. I have a very special guest, an old friend, an old pal. I'll let her introduce herself, then we'll just get right into the interview, man. It'll be a lot of self-healing, a lot of just talking, getting into the deeper self, the inner self.
Okay.
So, we'll get into it. You feel me?
Yeah, I'm letting y'all know gems will be dropped. Okay, gems will be dropped. My name is Tyler Riley. If you don't know me, I like to call myself a light worker, truth seeker, wordsmith. You know what I'm saying? I do a little bit of poetry. I write. I was a journalism major, so there's that. But all in all, I'm simply a lover. I love to love myself. I love to love other people. I love to kind of showcase my journey of what that's kind of looking like right now, and just that kind of filtered through and turned into a podcast. So if you haven't heard, we're going to go into it a little bit, but I got a podcast called the Nude Podcast. It's all about self-love, self-liberation, and establishing community by first taking care of self. So yeah, it's a really interesting take, and it's just kind of following along with my my own personal spiritual journey. So I'm just here to share.
Okay, for real. I love it. Can't wait to get into it. My first question, I'll start with, so you called yourself a wordsmith, and I feel like that's probably the best word to encompass everything that you do, really. So when do you feel like you fell in love with the idea of words and using words to express your emotions and how you felt?
So as soon as I came out the womb, you know what I'm saying?
She said it wasn't even wham. She came out with Shakespeare. You feel me? She was like, let me get to it.
It's so funny because my mom makes fun of me all the time. She was like, I don't even know, like, you didn't even crawl. You just went from like bouncing in a little thing to walking. You just went from like, watching little cartoons to just speaking whole sentences, and I'm confused. She was like, but you was ready to go. She was like, you on a mission, you know what I'm saying? And but really, I mean, I've always been into connection. I've always been into just really getting to know like how people operate, why people do the things that they do. So it really just started from an analytical standpoint. But then, of course, that helped me explore the arts, just learning about expression and, why people choose their mediums of expression. So I started dabbling into poetry. I tried to write so many books at 11. I was just trying to get stuff together. I was like, hey, I love words. I love trying to tell a story or trying to just, highlight a connection of some sort. And so, I mean, it's always kind of been within. And thankfully, as I just went through certain experiences, I learned that my words move people. And so I decided, well, listen, from this point on, I understand that words are power. Words really do something. So it starts with words, but it turns into actions, and it turns into, the desired reality. So from that point on, it was just like, hey, these words is doing something. They making people feel something. They making people, kind of change their lives. And so that's really what I'm here for, is to make a positive impact through words.
Yeah. That's real. I swore I was gonna write my autobiography at like 12.
Yeah.
I don't know how many pads I had around the crib with like one page of my life up to that point. And I swore I was trying to write a novel or something. But I remember one time I think I was reading it to my grandma and my cousin. And my cousin kind of flamed me because I think I had some grammatical errors. And I think at that point I knew my autobiography days was over. I wasn't gonna be writing too many of those.
Oh man, look, it's still time. It's still time.
Yeah, I know. I'll probably get much further now, but we'll see. Maybe later on in life. But no, I think you said something very important, where words are power, and I think that's something that we kind of learn in stages. I think we learn that words are power first by learning to care about one another and to not just speak negatively about people. I think we learn that as kids, obviously, just to be nice and to be courteous. Yeah. And I think as you get older, and as you start having more serious friendships, as you start having more intimate relationships, you start to notice and start to realize that words of power, in the sense of how, not only like what you say to somebody, but how you talk to somebody, the tone you use, the way you use your words, if you use things intentionally. Knowing people's triggers and understanding that words have power in that regard as well. So kind of staying in that lane how did that kind of epiphany of words having power lead into how you stayed within the arts in high school and then ultimately in college? And did you know, or did you feel like that would lead you to do something like a podcast, or did you still just kind of feel like I'm just writing, or, you know, this is just a passion I have, but I don't really know what I'm doing with it yet? What did that kind of, I guess, journey, for lack of a better word, look like for you?
Yeah, so I actually remember being made fun of a lot for being so serious and intentional with my words. It was just like, dang, she always trying to make something. She always trying to make somebody feel something. She's so serious. Like, what is all of this? You know what I'm saying? And at first I was, I was upset about that. I'm like, well, I mean, I could be funny too. Like, I could be goofy too. Like, there's that side as well. But I just felt like, at least in my life now, I realize like how important it is for words to be used intentionally. But back then it was kind of just like, all right, well, this is a talent that I have. This is something I don't want to let go of, being able to not only speak, what am I trying to say? Like, speak life into other people, but also to kind of observe how I was speaking to myself. So now that I look at the situation now and I look back and I'm like, oh, like there were so many signs that I was going to be on this path, and now it's just kind of confirmed. So I would say it wasn't until now that I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is really something. This is part of my purpose. This is something I'm supposed to continuously build upon. But just looking back, it's like it was always there. That desire, that talent was always there. And I'm super thankful that I didn't allow, people who made fun of that aspect of me. I'm glad that I didn't allow that to kind of deter me from the overall goal and talent. And I still don't know necessarily exactly where I'm going, but I just know that I'm going, and I know that my words and, just observing words is a good way to kind of catapult myself into that next level. I would say, like I said just a second ago, the way that I talk to myself is something that has really come to the forefront, especially right now. Because I mean, that kind of dictates the rest of your operation. You know what I'm saying? The way that you speak to yourself literally like directs your energy. You know what I'm saying? Because if you wake up in the morning and you like, man, I ain't shit. Like,
no, it's so powerful, man.
And don't get me wrong, because I totally understand sometimes we do have those days. We're human, it's natural.
Yeah.
But I started to like observe those days versus the days I woke up and was like, yo, you gonna kill shit today. Like, you gonna do your thing today. Like,
Amen.
You are already, things are already taken care of today. You know what I'm saying? So I started to notice that difference in energy. And I was like, wait a minute. Words are not only impactful because they simply are words, like they carry energy. So that's what I mean when I say they have power. Like, they really have the ability to influence whatever energy is in the room. And I think that's amazing. I'm forever in awe. So
most definitely. It's honestly beautiful when you think about it, because I think back to, it was funny because in one of my shows I'm doing with some of my friends, it's with Donald, Phelan, and Nosa. But in our most recent episode, we were talking about not just love, but the idea of relationships and that whole trajectory. And it was one of those things where I realized that my outlook on relationships early on was, I was surprised because they were surprised at my outlook on relationships early on. Like in high school and college, I was somebody that had the idea that you should build with somebody. And that more so goes to my personal story of how I personally felt I approached and looked at relationships. But even looking at things from that early of an age was very shocking to people. And I remember that I would tell my mom a lot of times in high school and even early on in college. I kept saying like, I'm different. I just feel like I'm different from everybody else. And I didn't mean it in like I didn't know if I meant it in a good or bad way. I just knew that I felt different than a lot of specifically guys my age when I'm thinking of like 17, 18, what I was thinking about, what I cared about. Not even so much what I was interested in, but just like the things that I took the time to actually put thought into. And she would always say that different or normal is subjective, or it's not, there's not one like streamline of what normal is supposed to be or what different is supposed to be. And whatever you are doesn't make you superior nor inferior. to anybody.
Yeah.
And I just think that's important because even those words, and for me, understanding that as much as I was telling myself I'm not normal or I'm different, it was carrying a negative energy because it was me separating myself from what everybody else was doing, but not in the mindset of like just focusing on myself. It was saying something was wrong with me. So I completely agree that like words do hold energy in terms, like you said, if you get up and you say, man, it's gonna be a good day. Like sometimes just saying that changes everything. And something I feel like I've been able to do is I've worked on catching myself in moments where I can feel negative energy. And sometimes it's just as simple as like, all right, hold on. The energy kind of off right now. Let me just reset. Whatever reset may look like. That may be talking to yourself. That may be, let me go just do something to get my mind kind of back in focus. For me, it could be I'm playing a game. It could be playing with my dog. It could be a multitude of things. We're finding something to get back on track. And I feel like that might be the next step in terms of really figuring out how to speak with yourself so you can figure out what your energy looks like and how that's going to affect other people.
Yes, no, that's key right there. Becoming an observer of your thoughts, basically, like, because I mean, a lot of times we do just kind of wake up on autopilot. You know, we have these thoughts. Sometimes, a lot of times, I can't remember the actual statistic, but like well over more than half of our thoughts the next day are past thoughts repeating. So it's like if you want to see something different in your life, you know, but you keep waking up thinking about what you didn't do or what you are not, or what somebody said about you yesterday, you're never going to see yourself in that new space because you're constantly like, what you're putting into your body is essentially what you are, right? And that includes thoughts, that includes words, that includes that energy and communication. So, you know, taking a moment to just observe the thoughts and be like, okay, but which one do I want to choose? You know, there's this one that's saying, oh, I'm not good enough, but there's also this other one and sometimes it take a little more work to see that one, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes it take a little more work for that positive one to come up. But if you take a moment, the key is taking the moment to be aware, taking the time out, and then being like, all right, I'm gonna choose the thought that's like, actually, I'm more than enough. And here's what I'm gonna do with that today. Because that dictates your whole day. So like it's really about taking that time to silence the mind, silence kind of the external, what is it called? The external like disruption, basically. Because you get to choose. You get to choose always.
That's crazy. And I think that not enough people kind of acknowledge that it is a choice. Like things happen, things are going to happen in life. My mom loves saying that, like life gonna happen. Life gonna happen. You feel me? Life gonna do what it's gonna do. And it's gonna keep going. It's up to you to choose, like, okay, this happened. Is this gonna sit me down? This gonna set me back? I'm gonna just let this be what my story is, or am I gonna turn around? And I just feel like there's always a bright side. Like even in some of the most traumatic cases, there is something to take away, to use as fuel, motivation, inspiration, whatever, to keep going. It don't mean it's gonna be easy. It don't mean things will turn around overnight. But you gotta start somewhere. Like when you hit rock bottom, like you got to start somewhere at some point. You can only go up. I feel like you got to have that mentality. When you get to a certain point where you can only go up, like why not just try? Like you can't get any worse. Like so you might as well just try to figure out what lane you're trying to do or what lane you're trying to fill and do that. But I think that's a great segue into the Nude Pod because that was the vibe and the feeling I got automatically. When I listened, I told you when I listened to the first episode, I said, you got something. I said, I'm serious. I know I'll be goofy and all, but no, you got something because even just listening to you kind of sort through your thoughts, you know, because that's how the podcast started, was you just kind of sorting through your thoughts on your own, like you was having a conversation with yourself. Even hearing somebody else do that can be so inspirational for somebody else to do that for themselves. So just speak to the creation of the Nude Pod. How long did it take to really get it off the ground? And what did you really want it to do? What purpose did you want it to fill when you started it?
Yeah, so originally I was too scared to do a podcast. I'm not gonna lie, because I mean somebody was like, you know, you're always putting out motivational content, you need a YouTube. And I was like, YouTube? Huh? I was like YouTube. Me? So and it's so funny because I'm a Leo, so people automatically think like, oh, she want to be on TV. I'm like, like actually, I don't. But it's funny. I mean, I do it to an extent, but I'm very shy. needless to say. But yeah, so it started off with just, I was going through some tough times. I think it was May 2018 when like the idea started kind of incubating for a little bit, for a second. And it was really just, I was doing an internship in San Francisco, and thankful for that opportunity, by the way. But I had to really like, I wasn't with any like close friends or anything. And, you know, my friends were busy doing their own thing. So I really had to like figure out what it was that I wanted in that moment, because I wasn't happy. And I was like, well, what is it that I'm looking for? What is it that's missing here? And nobody could tell me the answer but me. So instead of like physically writing down and journaling, I was like, I'm gonna just talk to myself. Forget it. You know what I'm saying? Like I got a relationship with me. I wanted to get stronger. I want to understand myself. I want to see myself fully. So I said, bet I'm gonna just like document whatever is going on. If I was crying that day, I was crying that day. If I was like, if I was mad at some people, I was name dropping. I was like, this is what it is. And, you know, at first I was like, okay, cool. This is just like a personal audio diary. But then I shared it with a friend and they were like, wait a minute. Like, I got so much out of that. Like, I know you was just venting, but like, I got so much out of that. I need you to make a podcast. And I was like, huh? And it took me a whole year to like basically talk myself into making a podcast, because of course there's kind of that negative self-talk of like, oh, what if nobody listens? What if they're like, this is too cheesy? And it's funny because I still have ran into some of those comments, but it doesn't deter me, because now I understand that the mission is greater, you know what I'm saying? But it's crazy. It really started with just me needing to be my own best friend. And I was like, all right, well, what if me navigating my own journey is helpful to somebody else? Because I know just listening back to something that I recorded 3 months ago is helpful, because I've seen how much I've grown and changed and perspective shifts. I'm able to really observe myself. And I was like, well, what if I document this publicly? And, you know, it's just really helpful to people. So I don't do as much of the name dropping or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? We like to keep things real pure around here. But you know, it did end up being kind of a means of liberation for me. And I'm finding, thankfully, that it is the same for my listeners as well. So that's super, super empowering. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. I mean, liberation, I don't think it's something we immediately associate with what we're talking about. But I think it couldn't be more fitting. I think a lot of people feel themselves liberated after they truly understand what's going on with them. I know there was I think 2018 was such a personal pivotal year for me. 2018 was the first year I went to therapy. Thankful I did that. I'm so happy I did that. Part of me wants to go back, not because like I feel like there's not like a pressing issue that makes me feel like it's necessary, but just being able to get those feelings out for me, the biggest thing was somebody that was unbiased. Like you have friends and you have people that care about you, no doubt. But when you're able to kind of just talk to somebody who does not know you and can really just kind of look at you, not from a sense of caring so much to want to protect you or caring so much to want to take care of it for you, but really just get to a point where you can figure it out yourself. That was the main difference, because I talked to my mom almost about everything. Like my mom, my best friend. So like I got like an actual best friend too. So like I have people I could go to, but to have somebody kind of put me in a position of where they really just listening. And you never notice how when somebody can really just listen, you can really hear your own thoughts. You can start to figure it out for yourself. That did wonders for me. And I had a similar situation where I was like you said, when you had the opportunity in San Francisco, summer 2018, I had an internship in St. Louis. But because of where I was located, I wasn't like in the heart of St. Louis, nor did I know a lot of people like in St. Louis at the time, because that was going into our final semester. So that summer was the first time I kind of like really had the time and made a conscious decision to be like, you need to figure out you. What do you need? What do you like? What do you want? What do you not want? And how are you going to operate with all those things being considered? And liberation is the exact word that I felt, because for the first time, so many things became clear. And it was just like, okay, I know for a fact I don't like that. Like that ain't it. That ain't it. This is a So my bad. Go ahead. What's the question?
My bad.
No, you're good. You're good.
But no, I was just gonna say, and when I say liberation, it kind of throws people off because it's like revolutionary, like revolution. I'm like, no, I mean, there is that going on, but we ain't gonna touch on that. But I'm talking about personal liberation, like being able to feel like you have more power over your own being, your own life, your choices. You know what I'm saying? Your thoughts. You have liberated thoughts, meaning they're not attached to anyone else. You know what I'm saying? And it's difficult, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, autopilot is definitely a thing. Just kind of taking on what other people throw on you is definitely a thing. And but that's not liberation. You know, that's not being able to get yourself on a higher vibration so you can see the life you want to see. So liberation is just about literally taking control back, remembering who you are at your core, you know, remembering what you deserve, things like that. So I'm really glad that you took out some time to go ahead and lean into that, because everybody deserves it.
Yeah, no, most definitely, and that's crazy. Power of voice though is something I want to talk about, and I specifically want to ask you: when do you feel like you found and became comfortable with? I don't really want to say your voice now, but kind of just your voice in general, because I mean I feel like you had it even if you were nervous, like you had it when you started the podcast. But how did you find to get comfortable enough with your voice to understand like this is my journey and you know my thoughts that I'm sharing with you, but I'm comfortable enough in my story, in my voice, to put it out there and just let it reach who it's supposed to reach?
Yeah, I definitely think it's still happening. That comfortability is still being established. So let me say that. But I honestly, I mean, people kept telling me that I had something to offer. So I was like, okay. I mean, well, I ought to believe that for myself. I deserve that much. So it wasn't until like I started putting out the content. And of course I was nervous about it. I'm like, this is a public platform. Like my business is out there a little bit. Like somebody could say something. I don't know. Like somebody could report me. Like, I don't know. Anything could happen. And, I just prayed about it. I said, listen, I'm doing this with pure intent. And, I have something to share. I want to add light to this world. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that I'm protected in that journey. And so far I have been. But even just getting some of the feedback and being like, oh my gosh, I totally relate to this situation. Hearing listeners say that is like monumental for me, because I mean, like I said, when I started it, I felt so alone. So to be able to put out some business or, some methods of thinking and things like that, and people be relating to it, like, no, you're not crazy, I'm here too. It's like, wow, like, not only am I able to connect with people, but I'm able to, offer them something to help them change their lives. And so that was just like, that propelled me into believing in myself a little bit more. I mean, it had to. Of course, external validation does help a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and act like we don't need it. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and act like it doesn't help. That reassurance is crucial, because you do want to make sure you're not talking to a wall. You want to make sure people feel connected, but to be clear, that journey of developing comfortability is still happening. There are still times where I'm literally nitpicking, like, oh my gosh, I am a perfectionist. I'd be like, oh, I said that word for you. I got to delete the whole episode.
No, for real.
I'm like, we rewrite this whole thing.
Just take this part of me out.
And it's funny because I be having tools to edit and I still be like, absolutely not. There's like just the way that it's sitting in there, it's not going to work. So there are definitely times where I'm critical and I'm like, oh, I could have did that again. But really it's about doing it anyway, regardless of being a little afraid or nervous or scared of critique. You got to do it anyway, because that stuff is going to come whether you do or don't do, but you might as well do. So that's it,
Man, it's so like it's so complex. Like this idea of figuring out self. And even going back to what you said about figuring out self first, so that can determine the energy you're giving to others. It's so crazy. Just think, I don't think we have enough people that kind of understand or realize that there are so many others that have either went through what you're going through or worse. And we just don't know that each other, are going through those situations. And that's why I think it's important to be comfortable with your story. That doesn't mean share it, if you don't want to, or if it's very
right.
personal. But if you do get to a point where you're comfortable enough in your story, I think it's so important at that point, at that juncture, to share it, because there are so many people that just need to know somebody else gets it. Like knowing that somebody else gets it or understands it is probably the thing that some people need to be like, okay, I can kind of let this go, or I can open
Yeah,
this because I don't feel like it's
exactly.
just me no more. And I feel like I feel like the Nude Pod has truly served as that. Like I said, I don't know all the messages you may have gotten or the people who have reached out to you, but I could imagine that there have been, like you alluded to, there have been moments where somebody reaches out and says, no, I can completely relate to that. You're not alone. Like they let you know you're not crazy. Because I'll definitely be like, well, am I the only one that doubt? Like,
Yeah.
am I supposed to? Like, is this just me? Is there anybody else feel this doubt, uncertainty? But you realize that even if it's not triggered by the same thing, it's still something that, and I think that's the thing too. You may not have the same triggers, but if you can relate or if you can empathize with the emotion, that just goes a long way for people. And I think that's truly what I've seen the pod do. And it's almost what, 2 years now? You're going on almost two
It'll be
years.
2 years in May. I can't believe it.
Man, how does that feel? It's been a year and about a year and a half at this point. You've had 2 or 3 seasons of
Two seasons.
2 seasons of the actual podcast, and then you've had some other content that you started this year. Just what has that content creation process kind of been like, and how have you kind of been able to fulfill yourself in creating this content?
Yes. Funny enough, like it's a very weird approach, but as of right now, I don't have like a whole bunch of things planned out. I mean, I do have things planned out for like season 3, but previously for the previous seasons, I have honestly been winging it, and I'm thankful that it's been received well. But it's really hard for me to like plan out the topics because I usually go off of what I'm feeling right then and there. Like it's very intentional, it's very authentic, it's very like present moment.
Yeah.
Or there are times where I have certain insights and I'm like, dang, I gotta reflect on this whole thing and let everybody know. Now I'm grateful for those moments too, but for the most part, I mean, I kind of be just going off of what's going on right then and there. And I am glad that people still find it, because wherever they find it, whatever part of their life they find it in, because I might drop an episode this week and then somebody didn't listen to it until 6 months later, but it's still hitting like, dang, I really needed that. So I'm super grateful for that. I try not to put a lot of pressure on myself when it comes to creating things. Like I only technically did 1 season this year, and that was wrapped up early summer, I feel like, or I think I dropped like a random episode in September. But basically, I don't be sticking to like typical schedules and deadlines because I make sure to communicate with my listeners and stuff. Like people be going through stuff, okay? Especially this year. We know 2020 has been crazy. So creating content this year has been a little more difficult. And I'm still just getting started. So I'm like, wait a minute, do I have time to slack off? Do I have time to kind of not follow a schedule? Can I afford that? But it's like, you got to take care of you first or else your content ain't going to be quality. So at the end of the day, I'm like, it's going to be okay. I let people know like, hey, we on a bit of a break, but guess what? I got something here for y'all. I got a little piece of something that's going to hold y'all over. But the bottom line is I can't fake no content. I can't just put something out there because somebody said to. I gotta feel it. So
that's super real, and I think it's as creators we fall into that. I think that it's difficult to be in a position where you want to and feel like you have to create something that's authentic, because that is what people want. But then along with that, people also want to see it consistently. And it's not that it's impossible, but like you said, sometimes life just be happening. And it don't mean you can't have things planned out. And as creatives, a lot of us do. But sometimes it gets tough because depending on what you're doing or what you're trying to provide, it's not always something that you can kind of lay out, and it's not always something that you can kind of put on a deadline, because like you said, it's something you want to be able to do or provide in the moment. You want to be able to provide your emotions, your thoughts in the moments. And I think that's tough, but I also feel like it's appreciated, by people who understand what you're talking about. Like how, like you can't script those emotions. You can't script, those feelings. You can't script a thought process, really. So when you're able to give that in raw form, I think we're all in pockets. Like as audience, people as fans, we're all in pockets of how we receive things. But for people that kind of understand that, or at least kind of respect what it takes to even be vulnerable enough to speak in that capacity, I think they appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope so because, like I said, I don't feel comfortable with putting out forced content at the
Yeah.
very least. There still are definitely ways to kind of balance things out, plan it to where it is still authentic. Like for example, for this season, I am gonna have 3 episodes just ready to go. They're still gonna be released bi-weekly,
Right.
but so that I can feel my feelings while those episodes are going on automatically.
Yeah.
I'm able to like reassess and be like, okay, what's episode 4 about to be about? Like,
right. Yeah.
because like here's what I'm feeling right now. So what's episode 4 gonna be about? And now I can plan that out. But yeah, it's really just about what works for you. I know there are a lot of standards when it comes to creating, especially on these platforms. And there are things people say you need to be posting 10 to 15 pieces of content a day. And it's like, if that works for you, great. And I totally get it. Like, especially if you're trying to move into a space of like working for yourself full time, like trust me, I do understand.
Look, go ahead,
I do understand. But at the same time, you have to be able to take care of yourself. You have to. I'm gonna go to sleep. Okay, I'm not gonna say. I'm gonna go to sleep. People be like, "Oh no, I'm grinding till 3 a.m." Listen, if it's absolutely unavoidable, okay, I'm passionate about it. All right, but on average.
On average, look, Ty said, I'm in the bed by 11, to be honest.
Some nights 8:30, but listen.
Hey, listen. All right, look. Sometimes it be like that, 9 o'clock. Hey.
Listen, I'm blaming it right now. I'm blaming it on daylight savings time. Okay, it's not that really.
Bro, at this point, you kind of catch me afternoon. Really, like after 12 p.m. might be tough to get some production out of me, honestly. Like
it's hard.
I gotta really be in the zone to get me past noon. The best you got is 2, 3 at the latest. After 3 o'clock.
I do
don't
understand.
ask me nothing productive, nothing create, I can't do that at 3 p.m. dog. Not with it's already damn near dark by that point. I can't.
Listen, I understand. We be trying though, you know what I'm saying? We be trying, so it's okay. The key is not to be hard on yourself about what you're doing. Your process is your process, okay? Mm-hmm. So don't be all hard on yourself because you don't look like the next person,
Most definitely. Man, so outside of season 3, what else or what more do you want to bring to the new pod, and what can you say your listeners and your followers should expect from the pod or just you in general?
Well, man, I'm trying to like, how much should I tell?
Yeah, you ain't got to give away nothing. Just kind of
look. I'm like, I
just tease people a little bit,
Okay, a little teaser. Well, I am developing some affirmation cards. So these are going to be 50 card decks with 5 categories, so 10 affirmations within each category. And there's a color that's associated with each category, so and there will be some instructions as well. But basically, the affirmation cards are for anybody who just needs to like pick up a reminder, a gentle, loving reminder that they're okay to experience the emotion that they're experiencing. That there's something that they can do about it. There's a new thought they can choose, anything along those lines. And it'll be fun too. You know what I'm saying? You could just pick up one every morning for 50 days and call it a challenge and be like, okay, now what? You know what I'm saying? See how you feel. Or you could pick up all of them in the same day and be like, okay, I'm feeling good. So those are coming. I cannot say like the date that they will be fully available for purchase, but they are on the way. I'm still working on actual merchandise so that the Nude crew can rock the dang on shirts and stuff. Okay. It's on the way. I promise I know I've been saying that forever. But yeah, I think it's time to let people represent, you know what I'm saying? Represent not only, of course, the Nude pod, but also it's just gonna be a testament to like the work they've been putting in, their growth. 2020 has been a hard year. I feel like we all need a little something. So I got some encouragement coming. I got some things on the way.
Everybody need encouragement, man. Look, I'm gonna need it. You feel me? Now, so this might be a loaded question, but as it relates to the new pod, what would you say is your goal or your mission long term with everything you've discussed in terms of being a wordsmith, understanding words having power and all of that playing a role? in the creation of the pod? What is that kind of like end goal or mission, you would say?
Yeah, so the podcast is a component of the overall goal. It's not the end of the goal. It's something to build upon for sure. So I definitely hope that the podcast continues to, show people that they're not alone. Number one, I hope that it continues to allow people just to build confidence in owning all that they are, all that they feel. Again, that liberation, just being able to choose, what defines you and what defines your day. I really want to provide that. But separately, I am tied to Wordsmith. Okay, so I am I am trying to become not only a wellness coach, like a one-on-one lifestyle mindfulness coach, but also I do want some sort of greater platform. I have no idea what that looks like. So find me in a few years. But I do want a larger platform. I do want to be like a motivational speaker. One of my goals was to give a TED talk one day, but honestly, it's probably going to surpass that goal, whatever it is, because I just feel like I have a lot of love to share. And people thankfully have told me that I'm rare all my life, and it's time that I start believing that. So really, I'm just excited for this journey to just keep evolving. However it evolves, I'm listening to God. I'm listening to my guides. I'm just going to keep going. And hopefully I got a community of nudies that's rocking with me to the top. So,
As you should. Man, final question. You already know what's coming.
I know what it is.
Yeah. But no, man, I've known you 6 years now, going on 7. Known you for a while. I feel like I've had the honor of seeing you grow. I think you see a lot of people in college grow, but the people that you're fortunate enough to actually know and communicate with on a level where you can see them make it through certain things and see them grow, I think that's something I'm just honored to say I've been able to see you do, and seeing you create this pod and kind of come into the woman that I feel like a lot of people, as you said, have always seen you to be, has been amazing. And so with no problem. And so with this pod, with everything that you know that you are and you want to be, what would you say makes you qualified?
Okay. Man, what makes me qualified or the podcast qualified?
Well, you give me both. Just give me both. Shoot both at me.
Well, we all in one, you know what I'm saying? so yeah, what makes me qualified? I'm gonna say number one, my authenticity. Because one thing that I've just learned about myself that I've had to fully embrace is that I can't be nothing but me. You know what I'm saying? And that's not a statement of lack. That's a statement of abundance. I can't be nothing else than me, and I am amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So authenticity. I don't want to be nobody else. 2, I would say just my ability to be open, you know what I'm saying? Because openness helps, make way for connection. It helps make way for community. It helps make way for liberation for all. So as long as I'm here and able to tell my story, I think that's a privilege. I think that's a gift that I'm obligated to share. So yeah. And then lastly, I'm gonna just say my ability to fight through the fear, through the troubles, through the like stressful parts of this whole thing, being a creator, just my ability to be resilient and be like, nah, this purpose is still greater than me. So these challenges, yeah, they here, but they're not gonna prosper. So yeah, that's it.
That's real. No, that's mad real. And man, I don't think, well, every answer to that question is great, but I think that epitomizes everything we talked about in this episode for sure, and in this interview. And I just want to thank you again for taking the time to talk to me. I'm glad we were able to have this conversation. Like we said at the beginning, I think there were a lot of gems dropped in this conversation, a lot of gems to just take with you, things to tell yourself daily, things to consider wherever you are in your journey of figuring out yourself and healing yourself, whatever that looks like for you. Definitely make sure you follow everything that is the Nude Pod and Title Wordsmith. Just follow everything. Whether it's Talks with Ty, she just dropped a poem not too long ago. I caught it, you know, you ain't getting off the hook, you feel me? So, you know what I'm saying? Like the content is there for y'all, man. She trying to get y'all the keys for real. And so definitely tap in if you can and just meet her where you at. You know, you ain't gotta be at a certain spot. Just meet her where you at and start your healing process wherever you feel comfortable. Man, can't say it enough. Thank you again, Tyler. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. No, it's been a privilege. Thank y'all for listening, taking the time, making the space. And yeah, I'm here for y'all. So thank you.
All right, y'all. Until next time. Peace.
Peace.